Welcome to the second hour of Jam 316. Today being Wednesday, we have the Financial Clinic, and we will be talking about preparing for job loss or for retirement. Lately, we are seeing companies laying off people, and a lot of people are caught in a limbo. They don't know what to do. In fact, my question for today is, do you know anybody who's been laid off, or have you been laid off? How are you embracing that? How are they embracing that? Give me some feedback on that. 20316 SMS line. WhatsApp number is 0786 316 316. Sometimes you go through situations, my friend, kama kupoteza kazi. Have you ever lost a job? Oh my goodness, I have lost a job. Twice. My producer is laughing in my ear. Stop laughing. Focus. And it is especially for a man, losing a job and you have no plan B, it is one of the most trying times you can go through. And having lost a job twice, I know that feeling. So this morning, as we talk about preparing for a job loss or preparing for retirement, if you have ever lost a job, we want to hear from you. Or maybe that is where you are right now, because companies have been retrenching people. You know, companies you never thought. I mean, who would have thought a company like Nakumat would go down? Can you imagine how many people lost their jobs? The other day I saw an article in the local dailies, Taskis is laying off people. Who would have thought? So people are losing jobs. Media houses are laying hundreds of people off because the media space is changing. With social media, a lot has happened. People are being laid off. What do you do? In studio today, I am so blessed to be joined by Lucy Njine, Wealth Creation Trainer. How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm very fine. How do you like my new studio? The last time you were upstairs.
I was upstairs.
Yes.
This one is nice, and we can stand.
Yes.
It's free. It's nice.
Great.
It's nice. And change is always good. That is what is making us jobless. Change.
Change.
Yes.
Ooh. I'm sure you saw that article in the local dailies. Was it last week? Or I think it was last week, talking about Taskis laying off people.
Yes, I did. In fact, I'm preparing for a training that is happening next week. And I've been going through the companies that have laid off recently, and there are many, and many more will come.
Okay. Why is this happening? Why are companies laying off people?
Pastor, we are dealing with around 4 phenomenon that have been taking place for quite a while.
Okay.
But I don't know, somehow we look like it's not happening. One is technology.
Yes.
Technology is a wave that is fast and it's furious. It has no brakes.
Yes.
It has no reverse gear. It is here to stay. So the moment technology started happening, it is of course replacing a lot of jobs.
Yeah.
That is one. Two, we have an economy that is not growing as much. You've just read, when you're doing the newspaper review, you've seen how many people are looking for jobs, how many people are jobless, and all that. The economy is not doing very well. And number three, we have an education system that has conditioned us to be job seekers instead of thinking job creation. So by the time we get to that space where now we are responding to these changes in technology so that we can adapt to the new jobs that are being created by technological changes, it is going to take a while. Right now, if you go to universities, you go to schools, people are still learning to become those traditional jobs.
Yes.
Ask somebody even in the university today, what is it you want to become when you finish your studies? I want to become an accountant. I want to become a journalist. I want to become a driver.
Yes.
I want to become, and yet those are the jobs that are being wiped by technology so fast. So we have an education system that is still not yet responding to the changes that are happening.
Yes.
And then finally, our population has been growing very, very fast. Over the last 25 years, our population has doubled against an economy that is not responding as well. So definitely, it is unlikely that we can expect that all of us will finish school and get jobs. Because all those factors, when they play, it is just not likely. So that is what is happening.
Wow.
That is what is happening, and it will continue to happen for some time until we can adjust, until we can now start going to school to learn how to create jobs. Until we can now get to a level where the economy is thinking of more job creation other than just becoming a consumer economy. Because today, everyone is selling something imported from somewhere. So you start asking yourself, when all of us are importing to sell, and these things that we're importing are not being made here, so we are creating jobs elsewhere instead of creating jobs here. So when everybody becomes a seller of something, who is going to buy?
Wow.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier you have a training.
Yes.
And I'm assuming you're talking to some of these people who are being laid off or have been laid off.
Yes, I'm talking to some people that are being prepared for that eventuality, for job loss, downsizing, whatever name you want to call it.
None of those names is a nice name to hear, I'm telling you.
It's never a nice name to hear.
What's this? I'm sure you've talked to some. What's their state of mind? What fears do they have?
You know what surprises me, Pastor?
Yeah.
Is that this thing has been happening over the last 5 years. You can't go for 3 months without hearing that a company has laid off, a company has closed, or something like that has happened. But you talk to our people who are in employment, and they're still it will never come to us. That thing is happening out there to other people, but it won't come to us. And so now when it happens, everyone is shocked. Most people are in a state of anxiety. If it happens, what will I do? So then you ask someone, how are you preparing? I don't know. I'm just praying it doesn't happen. Or I'm just praying it doesn't affect me. Yes.
Wow.
And so when we start looking at then how do you respond instead of waiting to start reacting?
Very true.
How do you respond to that? Because ultimately it might happen.
Most likely it will happen.
Most likely it will happen.
Yeah.
So what we are advising people is that one is just to be psychologically prepared.
How do you do that?
Prepare yourself psychologically. It has happened to these big organizations like you have mentioned some of them. You've had even banks, which used to be the most secure. Today, as we speak, I'm very sure even the government, if it had the money to pay the severance pay that you get paid when you get laid off, they would also be dealing with the same thing. So let's just psychologically prepare ourselves so that when it happens, I know you'll still get shocked, but then it doesn't hit you as much.
hard.
You know, let's stop living in denial, or what we call burying our heads in the sand. Let us just get psychologically prepared. It can happen. Now, when you do that, it doesn't mean that everything will be right. It doesn't mean that that psychological preparation is going to feed your family, is going to pay your school fees, is going to do, but at least it will put you, you know, that weather that you talked about, internal, the internal weather that can then withstand that eventuality when it comes. Then you are able now to start looking at, what do I do? What do I do? So number one is be psychologically prepared. Number two is that let us stop living like this thing is not happening. For example, you know, when we went to school during our days, those days of go to school, read hard, you'll get a good job. We got the jobs. And we would be assured that for the next 20 years, as long as you're doing well, you're not doing things that can agitate your employer and you lose your job, you could plan knowing that for the next 10 years, I am going to be having this job. So let us stop living like that, because there's no surety of you can even be in a job for 5 years. Let us stop living like that.
In fact, today we are in a generation where if somebody has been with you for 5 years,
you've worked for too long.
Yes, they've been very faithful.
They've been very faithful.
Yes.
So let us stop living. You know, during those days when you knew you'll be working for 10 years, 20 years, you could afford to just do things with your money. Because after all, you have tomorrow, you have next year, you have the other year. We have to stop living like that. The salary you have today might be the only salary you have.
Wow.
And therefore,
that's scary.
yes, it is.
Yes.
But there is hope because there's things that we can do. And therefore, when you get this salary, start prioritizing for that time that you might not have a salary. So instead of now spending all your income on consumer items, and I know we are very good at reasoning like, this money I'm getting is so little.
Yes.
How can I even pay my rent, do whatever, and still be left with something?
Yeah.
We are saying, because there's a possibility tomorrow that salary might not be there, make that tomorrow also a priority that needs to get into your budget now. Yeah? So that you need to plan to have at least 6 months worth of living expenses in an emergency fund.
I've had that a lot,
Yes.
Lucy, and I keep thinking, is that practical? 6 months?
Yes, it
I have
is.
got 6 months salary just somewhere.
Yes, it is.
Ah.
Yes, it is. Because that's what I'm saying. We just need now to become real. Because you know you can live for that 6 months. Right now, if our people are honest, there are some who will tell you they got laid off 1 year ago. They've been without a job for 1 year. Or somebody graduated 2 years ago, they've never had a job. So because you will live, you might live for that long,
Yes.
then it's better to just start planning for it. On the minimum, on the bare minimum, have at least 3.
3 months.
But the
that
good,
requires a lot of discipline.
that requires a lot of discipline,
Yeah.
and just like the way you discipline yourself to pay rent. You can't miss your rent.
Yeah.
You can't miss school fees.
Yes.
There are some of those bills you know you can't miss.
Because you've made them a priority.
You've made them a priority. So that is what I am saying. This emergency fund then becomes a priority in your planning. So if you do an estimate of your living expenses and find that every month I need like 50,000 to live. So you're talking 6 months is 300,000. So if you've been working for like 5 years, it's easy to put aside 5,000, 5,000, 5,000 aside every month and create that fund. It's something you build up. It's not something you just wake up and do. It's something you build up slowly, slowly,
Na hiyo
slowly.
pesa mnaweka wapi?
Hii pesa unaiweka in somewhere where you can't easily access it.
Okay.
I was speaking to someone on Sunday, and they were telling me, you know, I try to do those things.
Yes.
I save for 2 months, and then something just happens, and I find I just have to withdraw
That's the story of many people.
that money. That's
Yes.
what they told me.
Yes.
And I say that is what happens. But then at least you're consistent. You're not like that person who just lives without anything and just hoping that things will be different. So you can put the money in some money market fund.
Okay.
You can put the money in some fixed deposit account. Somewhere where you know if you needed the money, you'll be able to get it. And it's not being eroded. Like for example, you didn't go and invest it, hoping that tomorrow it will be this much, and then suddenly whatever investment you did not work out and it's zero.
Oh,
so it has to be protected. It has to be something, even if it doesn't give you a lot of interest, at least your whatever you have put in is preserved.
Can I put it in a circle?
You can put it in a circle because you know in a circle you'll just need to give 60 days of notice in many circles and you get your shares back if you have not taken a loan.
Yes.
Yes. So you can also put it in a circle. So we are saying at least have some fund that can sustain you for 1, 2, 3, or 4 months as you figure out what next. So that you're not leaving employment today and tomorrow you can't pay rent. You're not leaving employment today, tomorrow you can't feed your children. And you've been working. I mean, it doesn't even look nice. You've been working, you are this person who've been doing all these things. When you are employed, your children were used to having good meals, doing things, and now suddenly the following month, none of that can happen. I mean, that doesn't sound nice. Even if you can't do 6 months, at least try so that you can do 2 or 3 or 4. Within that time, you have figured out what next. So that is number 3.
I love what you're sharing. And sometimes Sometimes I think we get a job, looking at that person who's still single, fresh out of college, maybe they get a job. And when they hear a conversation like this, they're thinking, hiyo ni ya wale watu wako na hapo mbele. You know, they've settled down, they're married, they have 2 or 3 kids, they are going into their 4th floor, their 5th floor. Those are the people who think about these things. What would you tell that person who maybe even got employed this week? They are just, this year is where they are doing their first job. Yes. Should they start thinking about these things now, ama wangoje? In
fact, that is what we tell them when we are not even talking about preparing for job loss, but preparing for retirement. We say begin early, because 1, you cultivate the discipline. Okay. The same way when you earn your first salary, you are starting off paying rent, and it becomes a discipline that you sustain throughout until you get your own house. Then the moment you start putting aside and maintaining an emergency fund, that becomes a discipline that is hard to be eroded by other things that come. But there's a way our young people are very lucky, the way we were not lucky ourselves. Because if I look at my children right now, even if they got a job today, tomorrow they lost the job, they'll just pack their bags and come back home. So, so that way, our young people are a bit lucky. But we invite them to be responsible. Because they'll be coming home and probably confronting a parent who did not plan and is also going through the same thing that you're going through. So for all of us, it just requires for us to be a bit more responsible, a bit more realistic, that where we are living in now is not where we used to be 10 years ago. So young or old, we just need to plan. We just need to start thinking of, probably tomorrow I may not have this job. So we've looked at 3. We've said 1, be psychologically prepared. 2, prioritize that time that you might not be earning. 3, aim at creating a fund that can sustain you for at least 6 months. Number 4 is try to make yourself indispensable.
Goes right there. I like that one. We've talked about those 3 things. Do you identify with them? And also, do you have any questions for us? 20316 is the SMS line, and the WhatsApp number is 0786316316. Maybe an experience you've gone through, or maybe a question in regards to what we are talking about. As I earlier said, losing a job is not a very pleasant thing, especially for men, because you're looked upon as the provider, the sustainer of the family, and when you lose your job, it's almost like you lose your identity. Now, we had an opportunity to talk to several people and just ask them, if somebody lost a job, what kind of advice would you give them? And let's listen to what they had to say in answer to this question.
Mi chenye naweza kumwambia ni kwamba kama ameachishwa kazi ni kwamba apambane tena kutafuta kazi nyingine. Na zaidi ya hilo ni kwamba asikufe moyo, kwa sababu maisha ni kwamba ni milima na miteremko, Na kwa hivyo kama amepoteza kazi na kama kwa katika mambo manzito, asikufe moyo, na akiwa amepoteza kazi azidi na kupambana na kuamini ya kwamba Mungu atamfungulia njia aweze kupata kazi nyingine. Kwa hivyo imiso langu ni kwamba kwa wale ambao wamepoteza kazi ama wale ambao wamefinyika kwa upande huo wa kupoteza kazi, wasikufe moyo, waendelee mbele na waendelee na kuamini ya kwamba watapata kazi nyingine pia.
Okay, my name is Pastor David Mwasanya, and this is the advice that I have to people who have lost their jobs. What I can say is that losing a job is not the end of the world. It is another opportunity for you to restart over again. There is an expression in French which says, il faut reculer pour mieux sauter, which means if you want to jump higher, you have to go some steps back. So once you lose your job, it is not the end of the world. You can restart over again. And it is high time again you start thinking maybe on how to start your own.
Mtu mwenye amevutwa kazi ili ajirudishe moyo, inabidi ajue kama maisha haitaachilia hapo. Inabidi awaze mzuri kwa juu kazi kama mtu ameandikwa kwa serikali wala kwa sekta hii yenye wanajifanyia, inabidi ajitegemee peke yake na kuwaza ya kesho, asizani maisha imekatikia hapo.
If you lost a job, it doesn't mean that it's the end of the world. First of all, you have to dust yourself and move on. First of all, you have to update your CV and continue looking at other jobs. And also, not only do you have to rely on the job, but you can start other things that you are interested in. Yeah, not only that you'll be there to be employed.
Interesting thoughts from several people we were able to talk to on the streets, asking them what kind of advice would you give somebody who has lost your job. Remember, it's the Financial Clinic. We're talking about how to prepare for a job loss or for retirement. In studio with me today, I have got Lucy Njine, and she's giving us some nuggets on how to prepare for that. And I'm asking for your questions on 20316, WhatsApp 0786 316 316. You know, Lucy, listening to the comments that were coming through,
Yes.
it took me back to the first time I ever lost a job.
Yes.
And this was not just a job. This, for me, was like my calling.
Yes.
I loved what I was doing. And I could not see why they fired me because I had not done anything wrong.
Yes.
And so there were so many emotions attached to that. And I hear what they're saying because people told me that the first week. It is okay. It is not the end of the world.
Yes.
God will make a way.
Yes.
1.5 years later, 1.5 years later, I was sinking into a depression because it was like the kama harusi. When the people have eaten their pilaus and they've thrown the plates there, they don't even know who's going to wash them. They go home.
Yes.
By week 2, I was alone.
Yes. In fact, you call them and they don't pick your calls. Yes.
How do you deal with that?
It's hard. That's why we are saying,
Yes.
just be prepared. Just yourself internally, so that even without people telling you
Yes.
what to do, you have some plan. I mean, this one is not the one. I mean, like you said, it was your calling, and you know how much it affected you.
Yes.
So this is not the one that you will wait for people to come and tell you words.
No.
They will even tell you they'll pray for you. They will. I mean, there just has to be some practical aspect to it.
Very true. Listen to this one. This one says, when I lost my job, I went into a severe depression.
Yes.
Ni Christian music nilikuwa nawekewa, and a friend lifted up my spirit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
It is not an easy thing.
It's not an easy thing.
Yes.
And that is why I started by saying, let's not bury our heads in the sand. The era where we used to get jobs that lasted
Yes.
is no longer there. The only job that will last is the one that you create for yourself. That's the only job where you can now go in saying, here, nobody will remove me.
Yes.
But if it is a job you went and applied somewhere, somebody looked your papers, did for you an interview and gave you that job, that same way, you can lose that job.
Wow.
Yeah.
Listen to another SMS. Good morning. What? I wish this topic, I could have gotten it in 2012. By the way, in 2012 is when I lost my job.
Oh, even you?
Yes. When the airline I was working with went down, I believe ningekuwa mbele. Thanks for inviting her to come and talk to us. And this individual is asking if you have a Facebook account. Maybe
I
they
do.
could ask you some questions.
Yes,
they could
I do.
inbox you some
Lucy
questions.
Njine.
Lucy Njine.
Lucy Njine, yes,
Okay.
yes.
You had gone to number
yes,
4.
I've gone to number 4 and I was saying, make yourself indispensable.
What do you mean?
In this era of an economy that is not doing very well, every employer is looking for the customer. Who can bring the customer?
Yeah.
The customer that pays, and that is how we get revenue, that is how we pay you.
Yes.
So if you're that person who helps your employer to get the customer, it's very difficult that you can be laid off. It's very, very difficult because the employer is depending on you to bring the customer to get the revenue. Now, the unfortunate scenario, Pastor, is a lot of us just want those nice office desk, behind the desk job and a computer, answering the phones. and doing things like that. The business that I do is a very, very sales-oriented job.
Yeah.
And we've been looking for salespeople, I don't know for how long.
Really?
We've visited universities, we visited colleges, even those ones that pride themselves in training people in sales and marketing.
Yeah.
You go there and you're given a group of people to interview. None of them want that job of doing the footwork, of going to look for the customer. Everyone wants, give me a retainer, then I can look for the customer when I want. I'm saying this, and I know it's not easy to convince people to buy, especially in this economy. Like I said, everyone is selling.
Yes.
So it's not easy to convince people to buy. But if you can distinguish yourself as that person who goes to bring the customer, then you will not be laid off.
Very true.
You will not be laid off. The employer will value you because you are the one who's bringing the revenue. But otherwise, if you are those other jobs, definitely you are at risk.
Ooh.
So that's how you make yourself indispensable. Of course, there are still those other behind the desk job that probably also become very, very valuable. The employer might not get rid of you. But if you are three of you competing for that position, when now push comes to shove, two of you will go. But I can tell you for sure, if you're in front there, bringing the customer, it's even very easy now to negotiate with your employer. Give me commission. Let me go out, bring customers, pay me on commission. And even if they're not going to retain you on permanent employment, they might still keep you because you're bringing the customer.
I like that aspect.
That is how you make yourself indispensable.
I was going to say, I like the aspect you're bringing in because now the onus is on the employees.
Yes.
Yeah, to up their game.
To up your game.
Because there's so much demand for this job.
Yes.
If you're not delivering, there's a line of people
There's
waiting.
a line, many,
And
inside
so,
and outside.
And so it doesn't matter what kind of a job it is, make sure you are the very best.
You are the very best.
In that,
If you missed, in fact, I always tell people, ask yourself, if you missed work for 2 days, will your employer feel your absence or they'll be happy that you're not there?
Good riddance.
Yes.
That's a good question.
Yes. Yeah. Let's just become real.
Yes.
Let's just become real with us. And I'm not saying it's easy. Bringing the customer is hard. If you want to know how hard it is, everyone would be doing it. Yes. If you want to know how hard it is, look at those people who fill in matatus. Before a 14-seater gets full, those guys have talked to 100 people. And they do that every day, every day, every day. Yeah.
All right, let's get to some questions here. Family Media, I'm listening to the money conversation. I'm getting enlightened. I just lost my job, but saw it coming 3 months ago and organized for a small medical and paid off my school fees for the year 2020. So they saw it coming and they prepared. This one says, I'm loving this discussion. I saved 6 months' salary for 12 months last year, meaning they were saving half their salary.
Yeah, so now you were saying how hard it is. Look at someone who's done it. In fact, it should be on air so that everybody can know it's possible.
Listen to what they're saying. I saved 6 months' salary for 12 months last year.
Yes.
By January, I was feeling like, that's a lot of money to just be lying idle in the account. So I withdrew the money and invested it. Did I do the correct thing? I've started saving again.
Then that's the correct. That's correct. If you have invested and you have started saving again, that's correct. That's okay. As long as where you have invested, you know that even if something went wrong, you'll still be able to get 6 months worth of your living expenses. Yeah. That is someone who, they should come here and talk to people.
They should come lay hands on us. Somebody is asking, for those who have already lost their job, maybe you had that kabafa of 2 months, 3 months.
Yeah, now the 2 months, the 3 months
they're coming
over.
to an end. Yeah.
Yes.
How do you bounce back? How do you reinvent yourself?
What you were saying, which is now number 4, number 5, of now preparing for this thing, you see, you've done all those 4 things that we were saying. The 5th one is that become proactive. Start preparing for that exit before the axe lands. Yes, even before you see it coming, start preparing. In the sense that you'll be thinking of, if I find myself outside there, what is it that I will be doing? And also bear in mind that you see someone there said, polish your CV, start looking for the job. You know, when you're out there and you polish that CV, you're joining millions. So you mentioned them that are looking for the job. It's hard. So start thinking of what is it that I can do myself that now can become a job creation for me. I am not going to look for someone else to employ me. What is it that I can do myself? And God has wired all of us. Somehow, all of us have something we can offer, and somebody will pay for it. We just need to get in touch with that internal wiring. What is it that God has made me to do? Then polish it up. Instead of polishing the CV, start polishing up that talent. Start polishing up that talent so that when you're out there, it may not pay you as much as your salary used to pay you, but it will pay you something and it will keep you busy. All those people that are talking about getting into a depression, including you, it is because you sat waiting for a job. But if you were out there doing something, you woke up to go and do something, even if it wasn't paying you. Like you read somewhere, somebody started by doing something for free, and now they are the ones who are choosing customers. Think of that something that you can do, even if initially you will do it for free. You see, like the things I do now, when I started 5-6 years ago, I did a lot of free of them, many of them. But I woke up every day. And because I love what I'm doing, I was driven. Even if I went and there was no money, I still came home. I had no time to lament that I don't have a job, or I don't have money, things, because I was busy. You come home, you're tired, you're preparing for the next free one that you're doing. Slowly by slowly, people start paying you kindogo kindogo. And you find yourself, you may not be making as much money as you're making when you're employed, but you're making something.
Something that can still sustain you.
So that is number
5.
I want us to look at number 6, because I know we are pressed for time. Number 6, someone has said about taking a health cover. Please always make sure you have a proper health cover for yourself, your nuclear family, and those people that depend on you. Because there is nothing as bad as you're out there, you have no money, and now you are sick. Now, the sickness even becomes double, even if it's just a cold. And you can't afford to go to the Nairobi hospital that you had been used to going. Now it becomes like a killer disease. So just make sure that you have at least a functional medical cover or health insurance that can take care of you, your family, and those that that depend on you. Those will be your parents and people like that. Number 7, please avoid taking unnecessary loans at this time.
That is a whole show by itself, I'm telling you.
Yeah, that's a whole show by itself, and that is now what is killing many of us. Because you see, these loans are being hawked on us, left, right, and center. And the way we are socialized, if you get 2 people waiting there outside the reception, they want to see Pastor James. One of them is telling you how to save for your retirement. The other one is telling you about a loan that you can get, and your pay slip is a security. You will tell the guy of saving, I have no time, let the guy of the loan come. And these loans that we are taking, many of them, I'm not saying they are not put into the good use, but most of them are just consumer loans. So in this period, until we get to that space where we are stabilizing, you are sure you are working for 10 years. So even if you take a loan today, make your mistakes, misuse the money, you still have time to pay that loan and reorganize yourself. You can imagine if now you sign on a loan today, you get it. In 1 month, it's finished. 2 months down the line, you have no job. You have a loan, you have no job, you have no money. That is 10 times the stress.
Wow. You know, and I'm just thinking, you know, earlier on you mentioned about working on the CV. Yeah, and I thought a lot of us don't work on ourselves. Because we may not have that entrepreneurship mind, but we can work on ourselves to get it. You know, last week I had a very interesting guest from Nigeria. She was talking to us. We're talking about shame money. Basically money that we make doing businesses that people consider shameful.
Yes.
And everybody has something they can
Yes,
do,
yes, yes.
but you think my class will not allow me to do that. And
Because
she was,
from here,
yes.
I'll be going to somewhere, huko Limuru, I'm going to train some Form 4 leavers on some of those shame things that you can do and earn money as you're waiting to go to the university. I'm going there from now.
So she
from here.
mentioned 4, that every individual should have 4 sources of income,
Yes.
based on the book of Revelation, Genesis and the rivers,
Yes.
you know.
Is it Ecclesiastes chapter 11? Yes, that you should have a minimum of 7.
Oh, yes, yes. And I was thinking, many of us are so stuck on the one of employment,
Yes.
and we never think outside the box, and we don't work on ourselves,
Yes.
you know, because one of the things she mentioned is consultancy. She
Yes.
says you have knowledge, you can consult.
Yes.
People can come to you for knowledge. You went to school, you have a degree.
You have a degree. That work that you value so much,
Yes.
you have gained experience from it.
Exactly.
So instead of going to polish your CV, look for a job, you are so valuable like that, polish yourself, go and offer people consultancies. And when I'm talking polishing yourself, I'm not saying go back to school, get 10 masters, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
It's okay. I am talking about thinking of if I was not looking for a job, what else would I be doing? And there are many. When you open your eyes, there are so many people out there surviving in their little ways and making something, and they don't have the stress of looking for a job.
Wow.
Yeah.
Lucy, I'm hearing voices in my head. You know what that means?
Time is up.
It means time is up.
All right.
What's your parting shot as we wrap up?
My parting shot is that this situation is here to stay. Let's not be anxious. In fact, the Bible tells us in the book of Philippians that in everything, let's make our anxieties, our worries be known to God. But as we do that, we also have a responsibility to just prepare, to just, at least psychologically, prepare that it can happen. So that when it happens, you don't look like I was victimized, ni kwa nini ni mimi. I mean, let's know this thing can happen and pray for this, our economy, and do what we have to do so that our generation, our children don't have to come and live in the space that we are living in.
Very true.
Yes.
I'm out of time for this morning. If there's one thing I would want you not to forget is start putting something on the side. Yeah, I know it sounds like a huge mountain, but start this month. Put something aside with the hopes of growing it to get to 2 months, 3 months, 6 months finances that can sustain you for that period. Because, man, the job space is changing every day. People are losing jobs left, right, and center. And when it happens, be prepared to move to the next level. And as our guest has told us today, begin to think wider. Usikae tu hapo kwa kazi. Think wider. What else can you do with what you have? That's all the time we have for this morning.